Yes, welcome into episode 48 of the 301 show. We've got a great show on tap for you here today. The Wild's goaltending tandem continues to be a brick wall. The Vikings continue their tailspin to a top draft pick in the next season, and the Wolves have completely turned their season around. All of that and more here on episode 48 of the 301 show.
From the land of 10,000 lakes and just as many heartaches, welcome to the 301 show. We're here to celebrate, commiserate, and maybe, just maybe, see a Minnesota team win it all. Whether you're dreaming of a Vikings Super Bowl, reliving the glory days of the Twins, or still recovering from the Timberwolves roller coaster, we've got you covered. This is the 301 show, where the North remembers and the passion never fades.
Moving on here to our first team segment of the episode, the Target Field Talkers have a couple reports, both from Ken Rosenthal, to go over here, and just have an off-season discussion about what the Twins are doing or apparently not doing this off-season. So the Ken Rosenthal had two quotes and two different reports here. Or at least they may have come from the same report. I just saw them on two different sites here. Said the first quote here is, the Twins do not anticipate moving center fielder Byron Buxton or right-handers Joe Ryan and Pablo Lopez, according to league sources briefed on their plans. Minnesota's goal is to keep those players, build around them, and compete in 2026. And then the second quote here is, there is not clarity yet on how they are going to operate this offseason. And when I say there's not clarity, I don't mean not clarity coming to reporters about their plans. I mean clarity within their own organization. I don't know that they know what they're going to do. They're working through it. What I was told this week is that they'll have clarity by the winter meetings. Okay. It's probably a good idea to have clarity by the winter meetings. So, two things. Those 2 points there can basically be summarized as they are going to try to. First one says they're going to try to make a push for the playoffs and not sell the big three. And then the second one was they don't know what they're doing, and that seems like what we've kind of talked about here is I don't think Falvey is willingly going to sell and willingly going to, I mean, neither are the Polats, but that's its own ownership of the team discussion. But I don't think that Falvey is going to intentionally try to get this team worse for this upcoming season. I don't think he is going to intentionally try to leave or let this team, not make the playoffs by selling the big three. I think that he wants to keep these three and wants to add to the roster, which is kind of what we discussed a few episodes ago. And when he was saying that he wants to add, but has not been told otherwise on what the budget is going to be. So I think he wants to add. And that first quote could be from him, basically. On he doesn't anticipate moving Buxton, Lopez, or Ryan, but the ownership is basically going to force him to at some point. So I think that is likely. That is how I read that statement. Is ownership is going to force him to move that payroll, basically, of Pablo Lopez, at least. And then if Pablo goes, I think Buxton is out the door, because I think he'll want to. I mean, he's stated that he wants to leave if the sale continues, the fire sale from the trade deadline continues, and if those two are gone, I just don't see there's any reason to keep Joe Ryan at that point. And I think you just start over. But the other one, the second quote here about not being clarity on how they are going to operate this offseason screams that there is dissension on how they are going to operate this season. And they don't have clarity from the poll ads, which they kind of do, but they don't have clarity from the poll ads on what the budget is going to be. And so that is the reason that there's not clarity on how they're going to operate this offseason. And I don't think that well, first, I don't think that keeping those three is necessary. Like, if you just keep those three and don't add, I don't think that is good enough to make the playoffs. I don't think that's good enough for the Twins to make the playoffs at this point. And I think that they need to actually add payroll, which, again, the poll ads I don't think are going to allow, because I mean, they're the poll ads, so I don't think that they're going to allow Derek Falvey to add payroll if they keep these three. And I don't know how much quality level players you're going to get if you can't add to the payroll. So I think Ken Rosenthal did. I'm not saying that his reporting is wrong, but I don't think that. I think they're trying to, guys like Derek Falvey are trying to save their jobs at this point and saying, no, we want to do this, or set up future jobs and saying, we want to add, we want to do this. Because I think that not doing anything, staying neutral, doing that is actually worse than blowing it all up. Because at least if you blow it all up, you're getting prospects, and there's a clear direction of where you're going. And obviously, if you add, that's great too. But doing nothing is the worst possible case in this scenario here of how to operate this offseason. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Twins. These two quotes from Ken Rosenthal and the Twins offseason so far. Again, a whole lot of nothing going on. So this segment's going to be pretty short here. So we'll move on to the predictions. Didn't have any come off the board here for the Target Field Talkers. We got 3 going on the board, and we've got 3 season-long predictions here. So first one coming on the board is that Bailey Ober starts the most games for Twins pitchers in 2026. I think he's going to, it's obviously saying Joe Ryan and Pablo Lopez could very well get traded, and then Bailey Ober is your next best pitcher. And I don't know if I don't think he is going to get traded. So that's kind of me hedging there on the trade. So second prediction going on the board is that Ryan Jeffers starts 100 or more MLB games this season. This upcoming in 2026, he starts 100 or more. He was splitting games at catcher with Christian Vasquez this year, who is no longer on the team. So I think that he gets 100 plus starts this upcoming season. And then final prediction is that no matter where he is, Byron Buxton will win a 2026 Gold Glove award. So Byron Buxton continues the elite level defense that he showed last year and wins a 2026 Gold Glove. All right, moving on to Rinkside Rundown. Now, the Frost played 2 games since our last episode. They won both of those. They are now 2-1 on the season. They have 6 points. Again, the PWHL does the 3-2-1-0 point system. And I think that is a lot better than the NHL system of the 2-1-0, the 2-1-0 point system. But they played in Seattle, and they won 3-0. Kelly Panic scored 2 goals. Grace Sumwinkle scored the other. And then Nicole Hensley went 30 for 30 on the saves. And then they traveled to Ottawa, they went north of the border and then all the way across Canada to play the Ottawa Charge, where they won 5-1. Nicole Hensley made 35 saves on 36 shots. So over the course of the last 2 games, Nicole Hensley has stopped 65 out of the 66 shots she has faced. Kendall Coyne-Schofield had a hat trick, and then Grace Zumwinkle scored another one, and so did Dominique Petrie. So those are the 5 goals that they scored. If you look ahead, the Frost play in Boston against the Fleet at 2 p.m. on Sunday, December 7th. That is their next game. It's the PWHL with only 8 teams. Again, they did win their first game in Seattle. First time playing in Seattle, they win. Seattle and Vancouver are the next 2 teams, but with only 8 teams in the league, they get a lot more days off in between those games. So they are 2-1-0-0 on the year. They're all 3 of their games have ended in regulation. I guess they're 2-0-0-1 is how you would technically say that. So 2 wins, 0 wins in 2 wins in regulation, 0 wins in a shootout or overtime, 0 losses in a shootout or overtime, and then 1 loss in regulation. So yeah, they look to continue their title defense and going for a 3-peat. Move on to the Wild here. They are 15-8-5 on the year. They are 3rd in the Central Division. They are also 3rd in the Western Conference. So the only 2 teams ahead of them in the conference are 2 teams in their own division, Dallas and Colorado. Their goals for per game are 2.71, which is 26th. Goals against is 2.68, which is 7th in the league. They have 6 shutouts on the year, which is 1st. The power play is 22.4%, which is 11th, so that's regressing back towards the mean. Their penalty kill is 80.3%, so that's getting back towards the mean too. Their faceoffs are 47.5%, which is 24th. Their shots per game are 27.8, which is 17th. And their shots against are 30.6, which is 28th. So their goaltenders are stepping up massively here for them. And Gus started off really shaky at the beginning of the year, but has completely turned his season around. He is 7-8-3 on the season. His save percentage is a .905, which is tied for 20th. He was down at 38th in save percentage and goals against average at one point earlier this season. His goals against average is 2.76. That's 24th. And he has 2 shutouts on the season, tied for 2nd. So again, there are 2 goaltenders, and again, we'll get into Wally here. Wally is 8-0-2, still has not lost in regulation this season. His save percentage is a .944, which is 1st. His goals against average is 1.74, which is also 1st. And he has had 4 shutouts, which is also 1st in the NHL. These 2 goalies, again, like we kind of talked about a little bit last time, they are when you can trust your goaltenders, you allow your skaters to play a lot more lot more free, I feel like, and they can take some more calculated risks, and they can just get a lot more chances offensively than if they trust that they've got two goaltenders or a goaltender, no matter which one is in net, that they trust a lot back there. But the Wild overall played 4 games this since our last episode. They played against the Avalanche, which they won 3-2, which we'll get a little bit more into in a second. They played the Buffalo Sabres. They lost 3-2 in a shootout. Gus, I thought, played well. He stopped 31 of 33 shots. Kirill and Boldy both scored, but Ellis, the Sabres goalie, stopped 22 of 24 shots on goal. I did not think the Wild played that great in that game. I don't think they deserve coming in. I think they were the better team. I think they still are the better team on paper, but based off of the way they played, I don't think that they deserved to win that game at all. And then they played in Edmonton, which they won 1-0. And there's 2 guys here in this one that I need to talk about. First, obviously, Wally stopped 33 of 33 shots, played unbelievably well, which he, again, like I've said, he has all season long, has played unbelievably well. But the other guy I need to talk about is Jonas Brodin. That was, I think, his best game, not only because he scored the only goal of the game, but I think that is definitely the best game in his last 3 to 4 seasons. And it might be his best game ever. He was so good defensively that he held McDavid to 1 shot, and Draisaitl, I don't have Draisaitl's shots written down here, but Draisaitl only had 3 or 4 shots in that game. So 2 players that people consider are the best 2 players in the league, for sure 2 of the top 5 players in the NHL, top 4 players in the NHL, were held to 4 or 5 shots on goal in that game. So, and a lot of that was due to Brodin and just the absolutely solid defensive play that he had throughout that entire game. Now, what's crazy is obviously the pick that the Wild used to get Jesper Wallstedt back a few years ago. I think that was a 2022 draft. Was originally the Edmonton Oilers pick, and they moved back 2 spots to, or the Wild moved up 2 spots to the Oilers to take Jesper Wallstedt. And that's been the big complaint is the Oilers need goaltending, and they had a pick that they could have taken Jesper Wallstedt. Excuse me, one sec. Sorry about that. But they had that pick that the Wild used to take Jesper Wallstedt. So Jesper Wallstedt was on the board at the time that the Oilers were picking, and what has been the Oilers' biggest issue so far, or since then, basically, is goaltending. And basically their biggest issue in the Connor McDavid era has been goaltending. So I think that they absolutely messed up with that. I think Oilers fans know that they messed up with that. But I will say, Stuart Skinner looked fantastic during that Oilers Wild game. And he stopped 23 of 24 shots. I thought he was the second best, maybe the third best player in that game, behind Brodin and Jesper Wallstedt. I thought he was fantastic. So, again, ironic that one of the best games that the Oilers goaltender plays which has been an issue for them, is against the team that took a goaltender away from them, but that goaltender plays just a little bit better and has a shutout. So, yeah, just I thought a little bit ironic there. But I do think, the next game they completed the Alberta swing of their road trip here. They played in Calgary. They lost to the Flames 4-1. They had 4 different goal scorers in that game. The Flames also had 3 third period goals. Dustin Wolf stopped 26 of 27 shots. He looked fantastic. Only shot he didn't save was a Trennan goal. And then the Gus Bus stopped 27 of 30 shots. If we look ahead here, they have 3 games in the next week or so. They play in Vancouver on Saturday, December 6th at 9 p.m. Central Time. They play Monday, December 8th at 9 p.m. in Seattle. And then they play at home against the Stars at 7 p.m. on Thursday, December 11th. So the discussion I want to have here is about that Colorado Avalanche game. That was an almost perfect game between these two teams. The Wild won 3-2 in a shootout. Jesper Wallstedt stopped 39 of 41 shots on goal. Mackenzie Blackwood stopped 37 of 39 shots on goal. Kirill Kaprizov had both goals in regulation for the Wild. McKinnon and Landeskog scored for the Avalanche, so they're 2 of their big offensive weapons scored. The best player on the Wild scored. It was looking like it was the best game. Could have been up there and I think it's still up there in contention for game of the year. But I thought we were going to get the game of the year. That was a 3-2 overtime win. But instead, the Wild played for this shootout while in overtime, because Colorado is not good in shootouts, but they are good 3-on-3 in overtime with all that speed. Which, again, I understand it from a strategy point, but I don't like it. I want to propose something here for the NHL. Again, Gary Bettman, if you're listening, there's 2 rule changes I want to make here. I guess 3 rule changes. 1, have the over and back rule, like the NBA does. If you have the puck and you take it over the red line, you have to gain the blue line to be in the zone. But when you have the puck, once you are over that red line, you can't go back over the red line into the defensive zone to stall and try to get overtime. You can't do that. I think if you tell players that if you do that, I think that's going to cause more action in overtime, and there's going to be a lot more games decided in overtime instead of a shootout, which, again, shootouts are really fun in practice and stuff, but it's not it's not good to watch it in an actual game, especially a game like this that I think deserve to be settled in overtime. And like have them, you blow the whistle and the other team gets the puck, or you do a face off at center ice. Like if you go back over that red line, if if you take it over the red line and then go back over it, it's a face off at center ice or a face off in your own defensive zone. I think that would deter a lot more people, a lot more teams from doing that. So the other 2 rules are, I think you need to go to, let me say this first. So first rule, I think these 2 go hand in hand a little bit, but I think you go to a 10-minute overtime period. And it's at 5 minutes right now. I think you go to a 10-minute 3-on-3 overtime. And then if it's tied at the end of overtime, it just counts as a tie. You don't do any shootout. You don't do anything like that. You just end it in a tie. And this is where the other rule comes in. You go to the 3-2-1-0 point system. So 3 points for a win in regulation, because I think those should matter more than wins in overtime or a shootout. And this is regardless, 3-2-1-0 point system is regardless of if you change the overtime. I think they should just go to that. But in this, so 3 for an overtime win, 3 for a regulation win, 2 for an overtime win, 1 point for a tie or an overtime / shootout loss. So there's another thing here is there's only 2 points awarded, and I think that would incentivize people or incentivize teams to actually win it in the overtime, because you are losing a point if you tie, and then 0 points for a regulation win. I think that is how you fix the overtime, like how boring overtime has gotten in the NHL. And so, again, Gary Bettman, if you're somehow, I know you're not, but if you're somehow listening to this, please make those 3 changes and make those changes where, and it'll make the game a lot more enjoyable in overtime in these close games. Because again, that game, there is a combined 80 shots on goal in that game. That game did not deserve to end in a shootout. That game deserved better. That game deserved an overtime walk-off winner. And it was just incredibly boring to watch in overtime. And I know like the leagues don't want that, because they're ESPN and these TNT, like these companies that are paying for that when they do have overtime games, the broadcast rights are paying a lot of money. So the broadcasts are going to get mad if that's the case. So again, it'll help them. It'll make your sponsors happy. It'll make the people giving you money happy. So I just think that they need to continue to do that. So, yeah. So predictions, had 4 come off the board. Did pretty well on this one, on the Rinkside Rundown. Probably the only one I did well on. But 4 come off the board. I said the Frost beat Toronto. They did not. Now that I'm reading this, I want to make sure. I think this is from last week. Let me see here on this, on my spreadsheet of glory here. Sorry. Yeah, no, that is the wrong one. Let me get the correct one up here. I will keep talking and stalling as I get this one up. The Rinkside Rundown. I had 3 coming off the board here. I went 2 for 3 on this one. There we go. So those are the correct updated predictions and the numbers down at the bottom too. So I said that Taylor Heisey scores the first goal of the 25-26 regular season for the Frost. She did not. That was Kendall Coyne-Schofield that scored the first one. That should have come off the board last week too. I said Nicole Hensley is in net for the Frost's first win of the season. That was in Seattle. And then I said the Frost will beat the Seattle Torrent in their first matchup, which they did. That brings me up to 36 of 96 for a 38% correct rate at this point. I also here have 3 coming on the board. First one is that Gus records another shutout before Wally does. So I'm predicting that Gus gets to 3 before Wally gets to 5. And if neither one of them have a shutout before the end of the season, that this is wrong. I guess this could go to the playoffs too. So we just don't know. I guess this will just keep going indefinitely until one of them records a shutout. Because I did not put an end date on this. So now that I'm talking this through, this will just stay on the board until either one of them retires or they record a shutout. Then second prediction is both the Frost and the Wild lead the league in shutouts this year as a team. So the team shutouts, both of those teams will win or will lead the league. And then Kirill, who's sitting at, I believe, 17 goals right now, he will have 25 plus goals before January 1st. So he will score 8 more goals before the new year. All right, now moving on to Nordic Report. Already did Target Field Talkers. But the Nordic Report, the Vikings are 4-8 on the year. They're remain 2-2 in the division. They are 2-5 in the conference. Their NFC seed is 12th. Their NFC North rank is 4. They're at 272.6 yards of offense per game, which is 29th. Points per game is 18.7, which is 28th. The third down marker is 42 of 140, which is 30%, which is 31st in the league. So not a good third down team. Fourth down is 8 of 17, which is 47.1%, which is 23rd. The yards per game is 306.8, which is 10th. The points against per game, that was yards against per game. Points against per game is 23.4, which is 18th. Third down, defense is stopping them. That's stopped them 103 times on 162 attempts, which is 62.4% success rate, which is tied for 11th. Fourth down is 3 of 12, which is 25%, and that is tied for 30th. Special teams did not get out there at all against the Seattle Seahawks. They are 91% on 91.3%, 12 of 23 on field goals. Will Reichert is tied for 8th. The long is still the 62-yarder against Cincinnati, which is 5th. PATs sits at 19 of 19, which is tied for 1st. He has not attempted a PAT in a few games because they have not gotten a touchdown in a few games. The Seahawks game, again, absolute disaster. The Seahawks win 26-0. It's the Vikings' first time getting shut out since 2007. Brosmer went 19 of 30 for 126 yards. He had 0 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. He got sacked 4 times as well. Compare that to Sam Darnold, who I don't think did too well in this game. I think Darnold didn't actually play that well. Darnold was 14 of 26, 128 yards. He had no touchdowns, no interceptions. He took 4 sacks and he fumbled twice. I thought the defense actually played pretty well because one of the touchdowns that the Seahawks scored was a pick 6. So the defense only allowed 19 points on the day, which again, against that Seahawks offense, I thought was really good. I thought the defense was not the issue in that game. It was Max Brosmer being an undrafted rookie, getting his first NFL start, first NFL, real playing time outside of some garbage time in Europe in the Cincinnati game. But I do want to make this comparison real quick. So Justin Jefferson had 2 receptions for 4 yards on the day. The Seahawks defense had 4 receptions for 121 yards and 1 touchdown. So on those 4 interceptions by the Seahawks defense, they had 121 yards and that 1 pick 6 too, which most of those yards came from that pick 6 because it was like an 80-something yard pick 6. So, the Seahawks defense played just that much better than the, which again, that pick 6 was one of the worst pick 6s I have ever seen in my life. It looked like Will Levis and, Sam Darnold on the Jets all rolled into one somehow. Yeah, we'll just, again, move off of this game quickly, please. As we look ahead to the Washington Commanders. Washington comes to town, again, noon kickoff at US Bank Stadium. Washington is 3-9 on the year. They're 1-5 on the road. Minnesota's 4-8 on the year. They are 1-4 at home. Washington is 1.5 point favorites, even though they are on the road, and that is because Jaden Daniels is coming back. He got cleared from his elbow, arm injury, whatever it officially was. It looked like it was an elbow when it happened in the moment. But he's coming back. J.J. McCarthy was cleared from concussion protocol, and he will likely be the starter against the Washington Commanders. And I know that there's a lot of talks about what to do at quarterback next season, and I don't know. I'll pose this question to you. There's a couple options here. Leave down in the comments which one you would want. And maybe I'll put a poll on Instagram, which, again, go follow us on 301 Show on Instagram. I'll put a poll. I'll actually put a poll there. You can comment down below too if you want. But the question is, who do you want to start at quarterback in week 1 of next year? Do you want Mac Jones, trade for Mac Jones? You want J.J. McCarthy to start? They can sign Aaron Rodgers again, or do you want them to draft a quarterback? So those are the 4 options, and we will discuss the results next week about the quarterback. But the quarterback and the disaster of this season, I'm starting to take some of these off the board. Some of these season 1, again, I'll bring it back if I'll revisit these if they are actually true, but I really don't think that they are. So just clearing house here instead of doing it at the end of the year. Said the Vikings will win a playoff game next year, meaning this season. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, so that is incorrect. I said the Vikings win less than 14 games in the regular season, which ding, 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 that is mathematically true at this point. But they win at least one playoff game. That I don't think is going to happen. So off the board, incorrect. Justin Jefferson wins Offensive Player of the Year. Again, that we'll revisit it if it does. If he goes off for 200 receiving yards per game every game for the rest of the season, then we can revisit that. Said J.J. McCarthy throws more touchdowns than Sam Darnold did last year. KOC is nominated for Coach of the Year this season, but doesn't win it. J.J. McCarthy throws for over 3,500 passing yards. J.J. McCarthy finishes top 2 in pass yards from the quarterbacks in his draft class. Vikings win double-digit. So all of those ones they just said are we'll revisit if we need to, but I really don't think that those are. That's like a 0.0001% chance of happening. Said the Vikings will win double-digit games in the 2025 regular season. That is now mathematically impossible, so we won't revisit that one because it can't come true. Another one that we'll revisit, I said the Vikings win a playoff game not at US Bank Stadium, so either on the road or neutral site games. Again, I don't think they're making the playoffs, so that one comes off the board. And then last 3 here, I said Darnold throws for 300-plus yards. He did not, so that was incorrect. And I said the Seahawks covered the 11.5-point spread. They did. The Seahawks forced 2+ turnovers. They had 4 interceptions by themselves. So that one was also correct. So that brings the totals up to 44 correct out of 119 total predicted for 37%. Got 3 coming on the board, and that will be all 3 about the Commanders Vikings game here. So I said the Commanders beat the Vikings. J.J. McCarthy, when you add these three up, he will have 5 or more in sacks, interceptions, and fumbles. That could be a fumble that he recovers or gets recovered by the Vikings. Doesn't have to be a fumble loss. Just it will go down in the stats as a fumble at least. So he'll have at least 5 of those in the game against the Commanders. And then Janis turns it around and has a 100-plus receiving yard game against the Commanders. So those are my predictions for the Nordic Report. All right, moving on to the final team segment here, the Wolves Den, where the Wolves have put together a 4-game winning streak, and they are now up to 14-8 on the season. They are 6th in the Western Conference, 8th in the entire NBA, and they beat the Boston Celtics 119-115. They trailed 71-59 in the third quarter before Ant said, "No, I'm going to take over this game." He put up 39 points on 12 of 24 shooting with 2 rebounds, 5 assists, and 1 block. Jaylen Brown also put up 41 points for the Celtics on 17 of 32 shooting, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 steals, and a block. So fantastic game out of Jaylen Brown, but Ant was just a little bit better and was able to put that game away for the Celtics. Excuse me, not for the Celtics, against the Celtics for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Then the San Antonio Spurs came to town, where the Wolves trailed with just a minute or two left in the third quarter, 90-83. And they, again, Ant said not today, and put up 32 on 13 of 18 shooting, as the Wolves would go on to win 125-112. The Pelicans then hosted the Timberwolves for 2 straight games in New Orleans. The Wolves, again, tell me if this one sounds familiar. The Wolves trailed 129-125 with 45 seconds left in regulation. The Wolves score 4 points there to tie the game at 129, and at least they make up that 4-point deficit in under 45 seconds and send it into overtime, as they go on to win 149-142. And Ant put up 44 points on 16 of 30 shooting. The next game, Randall would lead the shooting on 28 points on 9 of 18, and he would lead the team to a 125-116 win. The Wolves have 3 games coming up here. They play the Clippers at home on Saturday, December 6th at 7 p.m. Then they play the Phoenix Suns at 6 p.m. on Monday, December 8th. Both of those games are at home. And then they've got a few days off before they go to Golden State at 9 p.m. Central Time on Friday, December 12th, to take on Steph Curry and the Warriors. But the biggest news here, and is what's probably going to be the title of this episode, is that Giannis wants out of Milwaukee. Giannis Antetokounmpo, and the Wolves are an intriguing team to look at here, with it as a destination for Giannis. The betting odds have the Wolves in the any other team category, and they are at plus 1,400 odds. So there's about 8 teams listed, and then basically the field, 8 teams versus the field, and the Wolves do not get their own separate odds. So it is unlikely that they will actually trade for him from the betting odds standpoint. But I think that the big thing here is that the Milwaukee is going to want, if they do trade Giannis, which I'm not a guarantee that they will, because the way it's phrased, the way Giannis has said it is he has started talks with his agent about the potential of moving out of Milwaukee, which basically leads to him requesting a trade. Like every time we've seen this with any athlete in any sport, it usually, if they're talking to their agent about moving out of whatever, or off of whatever team they are on, it usually means that they are going to end up leaving. So, yeah. But I think the biggest piece that Milwaukee will want back if they do make a trade with the Wolves is Jaden McDaniels, and I think that would need to be the cornerstone. Probably be a Jaden McDaniels and Julius Randle as the two big pieces going back to Milwaukee, which again I am not 100% sure about. But again, Giannis is a top, 6, top 5, top 4 player in the NBA right now. So you would be getting a obviously fantastic player. But my question is just, how much do you explode this team right now? I mean, we've seen the last few years how much the team chemistry gets affected when you make trades in the NBA, and the NBA is a very team chemistry heavy league, and I think that blowing this team up mid-season might actually ruin that. And even though you're getting the best player in the trade in Giannis, like it might actually at least start off worse, and then you have to claw back. Like they're the 6th seed right now, and the with Julius Randle being traded here, and then Gobert being traded here a few years ago, it took them a while to get settled in with each other. But then the next year, that it turned out better than it was the year before. So would Giannis just delay that getting better the next year, because Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle were traded here this year? So that is my biggest hesitancy with it. Obviously, if you told me Giannis just gets added to the Timberwolves, I'm not complaining about that at all. This team obviously, or Milwaukee would obviously want draft picks, and this team is very low in the draft pick, the draft pick capital space. So I just, with that part, I don't know how much value they can add there. You might need another team to help facilitate that. But salary cap wise, I think you would need McDaniels and Randle, and maybe throwing Gobert on top of that, or someone like that to make the salary work both ways. But I just again, I'm not 100% sure on that right now. So, yeah, I think Jaden McDaniels is if the Wolves want to get Giannis, Jaden McDaniels, I think, is the starting point for Milwaukee on the centerpiece in the trade back, or in the package brewing back to Milwaukee. I think McDaniels would be that centerpiece. And maybe that takes them out of contention, because a few weeks ago the Wolves said that McDaniels was basically McDaniels and Ant were the two untouchables on the team. So that's, yeah, again, we'll see what happens, but I'm very hesitant to move off of Jaden McDaniels with his contract and his age and how good he is defensively too. And he might, if you trade him, he might, to any team, not just Giannis, he might get a couple of first round picks back with that value there, and his potential to take more shots with how efficient of a shooter he is. He could get a lot more back for him. So yeah, we'll see with that. it'll be interesting. I do have a prediction about it here in just a moment. But it'll be interesting to monitor the Giannis situation. I think a more likely trade, I don't think either one of them are very likely, but I think a more likely trade is the trade for Ja Morant. I think that's more palatable at this point, and you'd have to give up a lot less at this point. So I'm not saying I'd rather trade for Giannis. I'd rather have Giannis on this team. But I think the trade value going out would be better for Ja Morant than a Giannis at this point. So, yeah. 3 predictions, again, now came off the board for this one. I said J.J. McCarthy will be spotted at a Wolves game in the first month of the 2025-26 regular season. I could not find anywhere where he was. I think so. He might have been there, but again, the way I phrase this is he will be spotted at a Wolves game in the first month of the season. I said that Nas puts up 20 plus points in at least one of the next 3 games. He did not. And I said the Wolves win the weekend home games last weekend, and they did. Again, they're on a 4-game winning streak, so they did win both of those games. 3 predictions coming on the board here. I said Giannis gets traded before this year's trade deadline, but not to the Timberwolves. So he will get traded, but it won't be to the Wolves. And I said the Wolves beat the Suns, and the Wolves beat the Warriors. So the Suns and Warriors, the Wolves will beat both of those 2 teams. All right, welcome into the final team segment here of the episode. The final segment of the episode that we do each and every episode. It's called the Power Rankings segment, where we take a list from a top 10 category from Minnesota sports and rank the top 10 in that category. So this week's episode, we have the opposite of last week's episode, which this week we have the best trades in Minnesota sports history. And I came up with different names for all of these, and I will read you exactly what the trade was too. But if you have ideas for a top 10 power rankings list, please comment it down below. You can email the show. It's frozennorth30@gmail.com. But you can suggest categories for the power rankings segment. Please keep it family friendly, and please keep it to Minnesota sports too. But for this one, again, best trades in Minnesota sports history. The number 10 here, I've got the Wolves cashing in on D'Angelo Russell. The Wolves made a 3-team trade where they gave up D'Angelo Russell and got back Mike Conley, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and 2 second-round picks. So I think value for value. I think in the locker room too, I think the Wolves came out on top on that one. The Wild came out on top on this next one because the guy they traded away isn't even on the team they traded him to at this point. This is the Wild and the Senators making a swap here, and a goaltender swap. It's the Wild sent the Senators Cam Talbot, and they got back Philip Gustafson, who again just signed a 5-year extension, is a part of the best goaltending tandem in the league so far this year. Talbot for Gustafson is my 9th best trade in Minnesota sports history. At number 8, the Twins actually win in the Bronx. At number 8, when they sent Ron Davis and Paul Boris to the Yankees for Greg Gagne. Greg Gagne helped them win 2 championships, and they were the last 2 and only 2 men's championships in Minnesota sports history. Number 7, we have, and some people might say this should be higher, but there's a bunch of picks involved, and the Wolves or the Vikings had to make the pick actually and have that pick succeed. So that's why I could not rank it any higher than number 7, because they got kind of lucky with it too. But it was a wide out gamble They sent Stephon Diggs and a 7th-round pick to the Buffalo Bills in exchange for a 1st-round pick, a 4th-round pick, a 5th-round pick, and a 6th-round pick. That 1st-round pick, doesn't matter what happened with the other picks. It was worth it for the Vikings because that 1st-round pick became the one and only Justin Jefferson. Number 6, we're sticking with the Vikings. This time they make a trade with the Bills' recent rivals, the Kansas City Chiefs. The name I gave this one was What Ifs for Sacks. So they gave up a bunch of picks, including a 1st-rounder, 2/3, and a 6th-round pick for the one and only future Hall of Famer, Jared Allen. They also got a 6th-round picks back, so they got a 6th-round pick swap. They gave up 2/3 and a 1st for a future Hall of Famer. So, yeah, those are my 6 through 10. We'll get the 1 through 5 up here. And there we go. So number coming in here at number 5 is, I'm calling it Minnesota Manny. The Wild and the Stars made a swap. The Wild sent a 3rd and a 4th-round pick for Manny Fernandez and Brad Lukwich. And Manny Fernandez again became one of the most decorated goalies in Minnesota Wild history. Probably 3rd on that list behind Nicholas Backstrom, and maybe another trade we have on this list coming up here in a second. But Manny Fernandez, Minnesota Manny, became a great asset here for the Wild. Number 4, we're sticking with the Wild and going Fiala for the future. The trade away Kevin Fiala. Could have chosen the trade to get Kevin Fiala too in here, but the Wild traded Kevin Fiala for Brock Faber, bringing the Minnesota kid home, and a 1st-round pick, which ended up being Liam Ogren. So fantastic trade for for the Wild, trading away Kevin Fiala. Number 3 here. This is the one I hinted at earlier. Got the 3rd-rounder for the season savior. They traded a 2015. The Wild traded a 2015 3rd-round pick to the, at the time, Coyotes for goaltender Devin Dubnyk. Devin Dubnyk was the backup in Arizona. They may have been Phoenix at the time, but the Phoenix, Arizona Coyotes. And he, in half a season, he played 38 straight games and played so well that he ended up being 2nd in the Vezina Trophy, a race for the best goalie in the league. The only goalie that was ahead of him was Carey Price, and the reason Carey Price was ahead of him was because he won the MVP that year too. So if you're the best player in the league, the MVP of the league, you're going to be the best player at your position too. So 3rd-round pick for the 2nd best goalie in the league that year does not seem like that bad of a trade. Number 2, I've got titled To Build the Pitching Staff. The Twins traded AJ Pierzynski, the catcher, for Joe Nathan, Boof Bonzer, and Francisco Liriano. So 3 guys that were absolutely massive in the early 2000s success. It's an absolute shame that 2006 team did not win a playoff game or even a title that year. That year could have been a World Series championship for Minnesota. But at number 1, this is probably the one that the team gave up the most for, but I think what they got back was absolutely worth it. Number 1, best trade in Minnesota sports history is titled Homecoming. The Vikings sent Bob Grimm, Norm Snead, Vince Clemens, a 1st-round pick, a 2nd-round pick to the New York Giants for the quarterback 1, Fran Tarkenton. He comes back. He and the head coach Bud Grant lead the Vikings to 3 Super Bowls. Unfortunately, losing all 3, and breaking the hearts of all Vikings fans forever. But Again, if you help lead, if you're a massive piece of a team that goes to 3 championships, that has to be one of, if not the best trade in Minnesota sports history. All right, that'll do it here for this episode of the 301 Show, episode 48. Again, like the video, lets YouTube know it's a good one and should push it out to more people. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below. You can share the video, share the channel with friends and family too. That'd be great. You can also email the show with any questions, comments, concerns, ideas for power rankings. frozennorth30@gmail.com. It can be found in the description down below too. But again, thank you for watching this one. Let me know what you think, and we will see you next time. Peace.